So, I'm going to say a lot of things in this video that are going to piss a lot of people off, and I hope it does because it's going to make you think. And because of that, I want you guys to share as much of this as possible, or as many of you to share this as possible, because I want to try to piss as many people off as possible. I want to try to inject a little bit of truth into some people's stale lives. You see, some people are being lied to, some people are being misled, and some people just have no clue what the fuck is going on. Rashard Brooks. The DA is lying as far as all evidence shows. There is zero evidence whatsoever that any officer had kicked or punched Rashard Brooks at any point or time during the altercation. Fact. Rashard Brooks was on probation for 4 counts. One of them was endangerment of a child. Just the act of having an altercation or a ticket from the cops was enough to send him back to jail. Just being, the cops being there and having that interaction was enough for him to go back to jail. That's why he fought. When he blew in the breathalyzer and he knew he was going to fail and the officers were going to arrest him, he ran. There was a struggle. He grabbed the officer's taser. The taser was discharged once. The taser still had contact tasing ability. Tasers are not non-lethal weapons. They can be lethal. And you have an individual who is also drunk. So you can't just let him walk it off. Yeah, okay. You pull 90 drunk people over you and you tell them, all right, I'm going to give you a break. Go ahead and walk it off. An hour later, they're coming back for their car. And if they hit somebody and they kill somebody, it's your fault. If Rashard Brooks, drunk, tasered a child, tasered an elderly person, it's the officer's fault. We would be touting a different story. We would be saying, why didn't the officer stop him? If Rashard Brooks had gotten away and tased somebody, so the officer fired. There is evidence, there is video evidence and camera evidence that they gave every kind of CPR and effort they could, and audio evidence of the officer begging Mr. Brooks to breathe, begging Mr. Brooks to stay with him. There was empathy there. He did not want this man to die, and yet for some reason, people believe this lying-ass DA. And I will tell you why the DA lied. It was a dog whistle, because the DA knows that the people out there that believe this story are the same kind of people that they're dog whistling to. So pull your head out of your ass and listen to what I'm telling you. They didn't punch him. They didn't kick him. There's zero evidence of that. Now, should evidence pop up, I will gladly change my view and say, okay, now we have a different point of view. But all evidence points to just the opposite, that the officer maybe didn't have too much of a choice, number one. Number two, they had empathy, and they tried to bring Rashard Brooks back. They did not assault him afterwards, as people think. And they did not assault him beforehand, as everybody has seen the body camera footage. All the other footage, the security camera footage from the restaurant, backs what I am saying up. Another thing that is going on today. We're tearing down statues of our founding fathers. Were they perfect? No, obviously not, but it's upon their shoulders that we had reform. Reform is the magic word now, mind you. Not abolish the police, but reform. Things such as chokeholds and things of that nature are no longer legal for cops to use. That would be a good reform. If a cop uses a chokehold, then you have a legal standing to go after the officer. But to abolish the police is a stupid response by stupid people. Only stupid people are thinking abolish the police is a good idea. And we have multiple stories of the same people who are saying abolish the police. Even after they say abolish the police, are calling for the police help when things happen to them. So, what? You want the police abolished, but then when things go wrong, you want them there. So make up your mind. But back to the tearing down of the statues and the founding fathers and things like that. You remember a while back the footage that emerged of the Middle Eastern individuals tearing down statues that were 1,000 years old, and the same people that are tearing down statues now are the same people that are saying, how dare they tear down those statues? But now, for their own narrative, they're acting like idiots that want to erase history, and There are a lot of other civilizations and ideological groups that have erased history because it went against their ideological points of view, and if I started naming any of them, this video would absolutely be demonetized, so that should tell you something about the type of groups that tend to get rid of history. And you're just showing your hatred and your bias. That's all you're doing. You are showing your ideological group who is incapable of understanding anything other than just pure violence. And the violence has got to stop. And YouTube, what the fuck, man? Holy shit. If I have a video and I call against violence and I say peaceful is the way to be and the way to go and the way to get support for your cause, this video will be demonetized because, But yet some other YouTubers or news channels will say the exact goddamn thing I say and their videos are recommended. So what the fuck, YouTube? Come on now. You need to pull your heads out of your asses too. But what are we going to as a country? I see things solidifying, and I know there's a lot of talk of civil war and things like that. But the civil war that we're going to see, and I think we might just see a civil war. I mean, we do have two factions. One of them is violent. The left. The progressives. They are violent and ultra-violent and are pushing their views under threats of violence, and they are taking territory under violence. And the other side is sitting back and watching and saying, this is not right, this is not right. But they are starting to get to the point where they are mobilizing, because when they are forced to face the violence that is presented against them, they face the violence with violence, because cops are so scared to react that they're not doing anything. They're standing by and watching, and I can't blame them one bit. If I was a cop and I saw someone getting stabbed, I'd be like, shit, man, I don't know if I should interfere or not, because there's a weapon involved. That means I'm going to have to use some sort of force, and no matter what kind of force I use, justified or not, I'm going to be facing the death penalty. So, look, a squirrel. Whew. And that's my attitude, and I'm sure a lot of the officers have that same attitude. Well, what are you going to do when they're gone and they're just watching and you call 911 and nobody answers? What are you going to do? Who are you going to call? You're going to form local militia groups, which are going to form other local militia groups to counteract those militia groups, because you're going to have armed people with differing opinions, and like birds of a feather flocking together and peas in a fucking pod. People of the same ideological points of view and political points of view tend to congregate together. So you're going to have roaming bands of armed individuals who have one point of view over here in this neighborhood, and to counteract them because they've got weapons and they're pushing their point of view because they believe they're right, this neighborhood who has a different opposing ideological point of view is going to arm themselves and form their own groups to protect themselves from this own group. And hey, this sounds familiar. What is this? Oh, wow, god dang. That's the start of just about every gosh darn gang ever. Most of them formed, one, to help protect themselves from some other gang or some other group or some other ideological opposing position that chose to use violence. When you present people with violence, then people are presented with the option of putting up with that violence or using violence to protect themselves. This is all just plain common sense. It's 101. Anyways, I love you guys, and I enjoy doing these videos, and if you notice, there's no edits in these. I don't cut them out. Very rarely do I cut them out. When I want to feel fancy and put in my title and things like that, then I get fancy. But I hope you guys appreciate the effort that I put in and things like that. And gosh darn, I work hard all day, and I'd really love to be able to make YouTube a full-time job. I really would. But I'm fighting YouTube on multiple fronts, and it's uber hard. So just a share, a like, a comment. Tell me what you liked about it. Tell me what you didn't like about it, and help me develop this thing into something that I can sit at home and talk to you guys and not burn up out there. Besides, I love talking to you guys. And, you know, things that go on around the world. We've got to know these things, and we've got to get truth out there. And we've got to bust some fucking bubbles, man. Too many times. Yeah, the DA's lying. There's no evidence. But yet, tons of people believe it. Why? Because they read the headlines and they run with it, and that's exactly what the DA was doing. That is the quintessential dog whistle, as they put it. Anyways, I love you guys. You guys are amazing. You guys are awesome, and I'll see you guys on the next one. But just remember, Your freedoms and my freedoms are directly related. And how can we make the correct choices if we keep getting misled, if we keep getting the wrong information? You gotta have the right information. Do a little bit of your own research into things too, and I'll try to give my opinions and do my research as best as I can too. But right now, there's zero evidence that the DA is correct. It's nothing but a dog whistle. If evidence comes up otherwise, I'll change my views. I'm open-minded. I love you guys. I'll see you on the next one.